In every generation, there is a chosen one. She alone will stand against the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness. She is the Slayer.
What are we talking about today? Format.
Buffy the Beaver Slayer.
Buffy the Beaver Layer.
Is that the porn?
There was a porn called Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But it was actually based off the movie, not the TV show. Boy, this is a great way to open the episode here. If you were a teenager or a young person in the late 90s and you were into monsters, there was pretty much one TV show that was appointment television for you.
Oh, yeah.
What was that show?
Batman the Animated Series.
No, that is not the topic of today's episode.
Oh, well then it had to be Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's sort of like Star Trek or Xena. It's one of these huge cult shows. It's been off the air for over a decade at this point, and people still are obsessed with the show.
Yeah, it was just a good show.
The weird thing is I didn't get into the TV show when it was first on the air. I actually did not start watching Buffy until right after the series ended. I went back and started rewatching the whole thing.
I watched the last 2 seasons in
real time?
Yeah. The very first episode I ever saw was the ending of season 3.
Graduation Day.
Yeah, that one.
I actually remember exactly what the first episode I saw in real time was. It was the musical episode from season 6. I wasn't really familiar with Buffy, and I knew of it, but I didn't watch it. And then I saw they were doing a musical episode. I thought it would be terrible, and it was actually really good.
It's one of the best episodes in the series.
It's up there for me. My dad was a fan of the show because he liked to look at the teenage girls. For his birthday, we started buying him the season sets, and before we would give them to him, we would take the plastic off and watch them, make sure they worked. And that's how I got into Buffy. When the show first started, I saw the promos, and I said, this doesn't look funny. And why would I say that Buffy's supposed to be funny, JD?
Because how funky is your chicken?
How funky is your chicken? How loose is your goose? Our goose is totally loose. I was more familiar with the 1992 Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie.
I just met this girl named Buffy. I'm Pike.
Pike isn't a name, it's a fish.
I liked her even though she seemed kind of flaky. But as it turns out...
You have been chosen, Buffy.
To do what?
To stop the vampires.
Does Elvis talk to you?
When things started getting weird around here, she was the one person I could really count on.
The Slayer is a nest. Let's finish it.
I think this relationship has potential. If she can just get rid of those other guys in her life. Buffy, you're not like other girls.
Yes, I am.
Buffy, the Vampire Slayer.
I didn't even break a nail.
I actually got introduced to this movie. I was really young at this point. One year for Christmas, Dad and Stepmom had went out, and they bought me a TV with a VCR. They bought me a bunch of VHS tapes. One of them happened to be the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie.
Why did they buy this for you?
I've always been a horror kid. They saw the word vampire. I also got 3 Ninjas and...
3 Ninjas, oh god.
Addams Family.
That's a good... I don't know how I first saw this movie, but I'm gonna guess I must have rented this from the local video store as a kid. A lot of people who are devotees of the TV show hate this movie. The film is not that well regarded in the fandom. Maybe opinion is changing to the point where it's okay to like both. And I do like both. Sometimes I like the movie more.
And then there are sometimes I like the TV show better.
Well, the TV show truthfully is more nuanced. That's just the difference between a television show that ran for 7 seasons and one 90-minute movie. What's the premise of Buffy the Vampire Slayer from 1992?
Once every so many years, a girl is chosen, and she fights Lopos and dies.
Buffy is a LA teenager. She's a cheerleader at her high school, and she's very much the typical valley girl. She's very flighty. Okay. occasionally she has strange dreams. One day, an unusual older man appears to her and tells her that she's the chosen one, she's the Slayer, she's the one that has to kill the vampires. It's fortunate that the Slayer has come around because a big bad vampire badass by the name of Lophos is in town, and he's prepared to wreck it. Joss Whedon, who wrote this original movie and would go on to create the TV show, has said that the setup for Buffy was always about the character that in a normal horror movie would be the victim is the hero. The ditzy blonde doesn't live very long in the horror movie traditionally.
Yeah.
Except in Buffy, she's the hero. She's a superhero. Joss Whedon has said some not so nice things about this movie. This film does not represent his original script. The director, who was a woman, Franz Kubel, I think is her name, changed the tone of the film from scary and funny to just funny. And it's true, this film is not frightening at all.
No.
When I was a real little kid watching it, the nightmare she has where Rutger Hauer's on the bed with her,
Yeah. There's some creepy stuff.
mildly spooky. It's mostly a comedy.
There's so many Whedonisms in this movie.
Weird that he says his script wasn't represented because there's so much of that Joss Whedon dialogue, you know?
Yeah.
He tore my jacket. Kill him a lot. That's definitely not a high school student. Dude, you're floating!
Come on, Pike.
It's weird to me that he feels like this movie doesn't represent his vision when it's very clear how much of this film is his. Now, what do you think of Kristy Swanson as Buffy?
That ass.
Oh, she's lovely. Very
I
attractive.
didn't like that scene where they have her in the tight spandex. All those scenes that they have her in the tight spandex.
Aside from Kristy Swanson being a very attractive young lady in this, I think she's funny. To compare her to Sarah Michelle Gellar isn't fair, because the TV show has a very different tone than the movie. This Buffy is definitely much goofier than the TV version. People would look at this performance and not like it, but I enjoy her in this movie. She's likable, she's funny, she's got a decent athleticism.
I prefer this version of Buffy, the character.
The movie and the TV show are so different.
Yeah, I mean, I love Sarah Michelle Gellar as Buffy, but some of the mannerisms that she uses to express her character kind of get on my nerves.
This movie is definitely a product of 1992. The fashion, the music,
Oh, I know.
lots of spandex, lots of pastels, lots of pop music on the soundtrack. It's very much a product of its time. But what about Donald Sutherland as Merrick or Watcher?
I like Donald Sutherland.
I think he's
as
great.
Merrick.
Whedon has been especially critical of Donald Sutherland. Those small moments where Buffy punches him right in the face. She says, I didn't even break a nail. I've never punched anybody before. And he says, well, you were very good at it. Or where they're talking about their dreams and he said, I would have been a fine shoemaker.
Yeah.
The movie doesn't have that relationship between the Slayer and the Watcher like the TV show would have. When Merrick dies, it's still
Traumatizing to Buffy.
tugs at your heart a little bit. There's a good death scene in this. Bad guys, who you really got to talk about. They steal the show in a lot of ways. I'm a big Rutger Hauer fan. I'm a huge fan of The Hitcher and his early Dutch films.
Lothos is probably one of my top 5 movie vampires.
Indeed, he was your number 5.
I believe he was.
When
yes,
we
he
did
was.
that top 5 episode. He's very much a classy Dracula-style vampire.
Yeah.
And he has the sense of humor that's very dry. With the kitten.
With what? Your puny faith? No. My keen fashion sense.
Oh yeah, hilarious moment. Love it when he's on fire, yeah. Hauer really has a lot of fun playing this campy villain. Who's his henchman in this? A near unrecognizable actor.
Yeah, he's actually Pee Wee Herman.
Yes, it's Paul Rubens. Oh yeah. Well, you know... For people who haven't seen the movie, have no idea what we're talking about.
Oh, they know it.
When Buffy stakes him, and he does this 10-minute long death scene.
Yes, I know, it's amazing.
It's hilarious. And you know another sign that this movie was made in 1992? Who plays Buffy's main love interest?
You know, 90210.
Yeah, Luke Perry.
Yeah, he plays Pike.
Yeah, he's
not
Pike.
Spike.
Pike's a fish. I don't hate Luke Perry in this. I think he's totally serviceable. And I really like David Arquette as his sidekick, Benny.
Yeah.
What do you think of this film as an action movie?
I don't know that I'd call it an action movie.
There are some solid fights. Kristy Swanson does some high kicks. That fight scene at the end between her and Rutger Hauer when he's got the katana is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's very clear when her stunt double is taken over for her. Whenever Buffy does a tumble or a somersault, you don't see Swanson's face. If you want to make that criticism, the TV show does the exact same thing. And you know another notable name who's in this movie? One of Buffy's friends, young Hilary Swank.
Oh, yeah. I always forget that she's in this.
She's the one who gets her head slammed against the wall.
Yeah,
you know?
it's retro.
Maybe the funniest moment of the movie for me is Buffy's grades are slipping. She's out killing vampires all night. And her principal's trying to level with her. You know, I was in Vietnam. Well, I saw Platoon. Or he talks about how when he went to a Doobie Brothers concert and dropped acid, and my friend's head was like a toaster oven.
You see the music. Doesn't he say that?
Yeah, and then Buffy spits the thumbtack at the fly, and the principal goes quiet, and then he finishes his story by saying, and then I freaked out.
My favorite principal scene is at the end. Detention, detention,
Yeah.
detention.
Buffy and Luke Perry.
Detention, detention, detention.
Luke Perry's killed a couple of vampires, and all these dead bodies are on the floor, running around putting detention slips on all the dead bodies. Clearly, we're fans of the movie. And if you saw the TV show first, you probably will watch this movie and say, what the hell is this? And this is a movie I watched a lot as a kid. And when we started seeing the promos for the TV show on the then fledgling WB channel, I was, what the hell is this? This doesn't look like the Buffy I know, which is why I didn't watch the show for years.
Monday, on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. In a world where terror knows no limit, the only hope is the Slayer. Everything she's always feared
You've got to be ready
What for?
for the harvest.
is about to come true. In a world of evil, where anyone can turn on you, who can the Chosen One trust?
Something's already in motion, something big.
An all-new Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
At some point, somebody got a hold of Whedon, who was a well-known writer. He'd worked on Roseanne and had worked on the script for Toy Story and Speed. They came to him and asked him to pitch a TV show, and he wanted to revive Buffy. The series is actually, in a weird way, a sequel to the movie. It's not a sequel to the movie, it's a sequel to Whedon's original screenplay, which apparently ended with Buffy trapping all the vampires in the gym and then setting the gym on fire was one thing that happened. And there are some references to that in the show about how she got into trouble a lot at her previous school. What's Buffy up to at the start of the season? Her mom and her have moved to Sunnydale, California, which seems to be a nice
Small town.
What happens to be located in Sunnydale?
The Hellmouth.
And where is the Hellmouth?
Underneath the school.
Right. The high school is above the gate to hell. That's why all these monsters are hanging out
Well,
around the
yeah,
school.
coincidentally, I believe that our high school was on top of the Hellmouth.
That's kind of the point of the show in its first 3 years. Something Whedon and his writers did. High school is hell. We're going to take traditional horror concepts and archetypes and filter them through a teenage perspective. So the monsters will become metaphors for typical teenage problems. That's something I really enjoy about these first couple seasons. So who's playing Buffy in this TV show?
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
What about her?
She looked a lot better in season 1 than she did the rest of the seasons.
In this first season, they have her in a lot of miniskirts and high-heeled boots.
What's funny is she's this badass monster killer, but in her personal life, she's kind of timid.
The entire series is all about her balancing what is supposed to be a normal teenage girl life with her destiny as a slayer. One of the main sources of dramatic tension in the series. There's one episode, I think it's called Don't Kill a Guy on the First Date, where she tries to go out and have a normal date with a normal guy. In process of her and her friends have to go and fight some vampires. How are the Buffy vampires different?
They have the bone face.
Yeah, the scrunchy forehead. When they're gonna bite somebody, they get a monster face. What happens to the vampires when they get staked?
They dust.
They turn into a puff of smoke. Whedon has said the reason they have the vampires explode into dust, they didn't want every episode to have a 15-minute sequence where Buffy is hiding a bunch of bodies. It really doesn't make any sense. Why do the vampires' clothes explode when they explode? You can tell when the show's budget was running a little high to save money. Sometimes you'll just see her lunge with the stake and you'll hear the dusting sound effect from off screen.
Yeah.
The biggest difference between the movie and the TV show, I feel, is that Buffy has a supporting cast in the series.
Which is also probably the glue that holds the show together.
You might even say it's the staple glue, JD.
It is.
There's the Scoobies. It's
Nobody likes Cordelia.
Cordelia's character development comes later.
So vapid and,
Yeah.
and nobody likes her.
And this-
but yet she's oddly useful.
Yeah, in this first season, Cordelia is the queen bitch. Very much the mean girl. That term didn't exist at the time, but that's what she is. There are times in the first season or two where you're watching this character and you just can't help but think, why are we spending time with her? She's so annoying.
Yeah.
But she's there as a contrast. It's been said before that this is the person Buffy was before she became the Slayer. Though I admit, she's not always the most likable character. Who are Buffy's two best friends?
Xander and Willow.
Xander and Willow, and what are their purposes?
Xander to make me laugh and Willow to make me horny.
Willow is supposed to be the shy, nerdy girl.
But she's the hottest character on the show.
She's supposed to be the nerdy girl, but every person I've met would hit that thing so hard it would break. Everybody is unanimously agreeing that Allison Hannigan is the hottest girl on the show. In the first season, Willow's the smart one. She was always hacking into things and doing stuff on the computer. And Xander, I guess,
butt monkey.
the comic relief is what I would say. Well, first off, he's there as sort of a love interest for Buffy. He clearly is attracted to her.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't reciprocate those feelings, but mostly he's there to tell the joke and be goofy, especially as the show would go on. Xander would become my favorite character because he is the most human of the entire crew. He has no superpowers, no special abilities, no special training, and yet when his friends are in danger, he still runs towards that danger.
He has a very endearing quality to him.
Yeah, he does. Nicholas Brendan plays him. Unfortunately, Nick has had the least successful post-show career.
From the big three. Or I guess big four if you count Giles.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Giles. What's Giles' role on the show?
He's a librarian.
He's the Watcher.
He's a librarian.
The Slayers always have Watchers. They always have these old guys who train them and help them on their quest to kill the vampires. And I love Anthony Stewart Head. He's so good. That's one of the things that makes the show work so well, is it has a phenomenal cast.
Now, Giles is best, though, in season 4, when he's not tied to the library anymore.
Yeah.
He's kind of on his own. I love him in every season. He's one of my favorite characters in the show.
Mine as well. I really like Giles a lot. Something Whedon did that's really smart is every season has a big bad. There are standalone episodes, but they all sort of tie together into an overall season arc. Who's the big bad in season 1.
Master.
Yeah, the Master.
The Master.
This very old, very evil vampire who's trapped in a church underneath Sunnydale by an earthquake. He wants to get out of this place where he's being held and open the Hellmouth.
Right.
This is just a Whedon thing. Even the super evil villains in the show are sarcastic and dryly humorous. The Master's frequently funny. He's not one of my favorites, but I enjoy him a lot nevertheless. It was always neat when they brought his character back, which they did a few times. One of the reasons why I was slow to get into the show is there was this perception that Buffy was for girls, because there was a lot of romance on it. That was how it was marketed anyway.
I think I knew more guys than girls that liked the show.
Who is Buffy's big love interest in the first season, and for the next couple seasons anyway?
Angelus.
Or Angel.
I prefer Angelus, that's her name.
Played by David Boreanaz, and you think the 400-year-old vampire hanging out with a high school girl is something Twilight invented, I've got news for you. What do you think of Angel overall?
I've never really been a big fan of Angel.
Yeah, David Boreanaz can definitely keep up with the Whedon dialogue. He can be funny, he can be goofy, he can be scary. But sometimes, if I have a problem with Buffy as a series, occasionally the show will become melodramatic. And if there's a source of melodrama on the show, it's Buffy and her boyfriends. She's always having some drama with her boyfriends, usually. What's the reveal with Angel? He's a vampire. What makes him different from regular vampires?
He has a soul.
He has a soul, which makes him
Until Buffy fucks him.
That comes later. Yeah, that comes later. But Willow and Xander are childhood best friends. They've known each other their entire lives.
Well, I guess it is season 2 when they get together.
Yeah, it is. And when it happens, it's wrong. It's so wrong. No, it's not good for either of them. You know, it's going to end in tears, but it's kind of hot.
Nah.
What are some episodes that come to mind when you think about the first season of Buffy?
First episode.
Welcome to the Hellmouth is part 1, The Harvest is part 2, and it introduces this place called the Bronze, which is a club, music club. It's the cool hangout for kids in Sunnydale. Mm-hmm. So much the show takes place there.
The episode, I think it's the next episode actually, where Amy, the witch,
Buffy goes to cheerleader tryouts. One of the girls in the cheerleader group is a witch who's trying to sabotage her rivals.
Right, but then you find out that it's actually the girl's mom.
Yeah, she switched places with her child. You want to talk about how this show's all about masking teenage anxieties through horror metaphors. That episode's about parents who push their kids too hard, who want to live vicariously through their children. Or like another episode that masks a typical teenage problem through a horror concept is Out of Sight, Out of Mind, where a girl is so ignored by everybody in the school that she becomes invisible.
Yeah.
She goes on an invisible man-style rampage. And you know who plays Marcy the Invisible Girl? You know who that is?
I do, but go ahead.
It's Clea Duvall from The Faculty and
Yeah.
But I'm a Cheerleader. Teacher's pet, Xander gets a crush on the hot substitute teacher, but the twist is she's a giant bug.
Where Xander gets possessed by a hyena demon in this season.
Yeah, The Pack, which is an episode about peer pressure. And then occasionally they'll just do an episode that's just about a monster. There's a dummy episode. Every horror show's got to do an evil dummy. Twisted Buffy is that Sid the dummy is not actually evil. He's this demon hunter who's been reincarnated as a puppet.
In Chaos Bleeds, the Buffy video game.
Yeah, one of the video games, they brought Sid the dummy back for some reason. By Robot Eugene. Willow falls in love with a guy over the internet, but he's a demon that's living in the computer.
This is the one with the computer-looking minotaur, though,
yeah,
right?
Moloch is the name
Yes.
of that demon. Or what do you think of that season finale, Prophecy Girl? What's an important thing that happens in the final episode of season 1?
Buffy motherfucking dies.
Not the last time that'll happen either. The Master gets out of his prison, he opens the Hellmouth. Giles and Xander and Willow are fighting this giant snake monster that comes out of the floor. The Master drains Buffy, drops her in a pool of water, and she dies. She has to be revived. But when she comes back from the dead, she gets a boost. It's a little disappointing that she takes the Master out with such ease. She flips him through the skylight in the library, and he falls on a table, gets impaled, and dies. The first season was only 13 episodes. It was a mid-season replacement. So maybe that's why that story arc feels a little abbreviated. But after all the build-up, it is a little disappointing that Buffy takes out the Master without too much of a fight.
But actually, if you think about it, now she's got it in her head, well, I've already died, so what else have I got to lose?
What indeed?
And does it in a prom dress, which I think is so hot.
Okay. I really like the first season. Yeah, it is a campier than the later shows.
Her destiny is to destroy the evil ones. Evil has a few new faces, and Sunnydale is their new home.
So, who do you kill for fun around here?
He could die. He's a vampire. He should die.
A powerful evil has taken control. When it's all over, everything will have changed.
Things are about to get very interesting.
The angel Buffy knew is not there to protect her. Can the Slayer stop him?
Hello?
Before someone dies.
We're about to make history.
The final encounter between love and evil. Get home before dark.
What's the main arc in the second season? The first full season of the show. It's 22 episodes. The Master's dead, but a new bad guy's in town.
Yeah, Spike.
notorious vampire. Why is he called Spike?
When he killed people, he would kill them with railroad spike.
And he's a punk rock vampire.
But what is his real name?
Well, his real name is William, and they used to call him William the Bloody. It's not for the reason you think. He's got a psychotic, completely bug-nuts girlfriend named Drusilla.
I really like Drusilla.
Something Whedon is good at is writing characters who seem genuinely insane. Not TV movie insane, but really fucking nuts. Drusilla will ramble on about topics that are unrelated to what's going on.
Well, I don't like randomized Drusilla later on in the season when her brain gets kind of fixed.
She's sick with some sort of ambiguous illness. That's Spike's goal for the first half of the season, is to heal Drusilla.
So when he finally heals her, she becomes a little bit more competent, and then that's when I like Drusilla.
Yeah, but she's still crazy.
It's not like her brain is constantly rebooting.
Spike and Drusilla are decoy antagonists, because who's the real big bad of season 2?
Angelus.
In the middle of the season, Buffy and Angel have been dating for a while. Her mom finds out about them. In fact, I think season 2 is where Joyce, Buffy's mom, who we should mention, she's kind of an overlooked character, but she's very important to the show.
I actually like Joyce.
I love Joyce.
One of the biggest problems with later seasons is when she's not in here.
She has a lot of challenges as the mother of a Slayer, but she tackles them. Usually on teen-centric shows, the parents are assholes, and Joyce is only an asshole once or twice throughout the entire show. Usually she's really great. Buffy and Angel have sex. Buffy loses her virginity, and what happens then?
She fucks the soul out of him.
The reason Angel has a soul, back in like the 1800s, he killed a gypsy girl. The gypsy girl's parents put a curse on him, returned his soul so he could feel guilt for all the evil things he did as a vampire. If he ever experienced true happiness, he would lose his soul and become evil again. And I guess in this scenario, true happiness means doing it with somebody he really has deep feelings for. And
deep feelings.
In the second half of the season, Angelus becomes the main villain, and his goal literally is send the world to hell. He wants to open a portal that will suck the world as we know it into a hell dimension. What's the lesson there? When a girl sleeps with her boyfriend and suddenly he feels like a totally different person, he starts treating her badly, which is not something I can experience. There are a lot of new characters in season 2. We've already talked about Spike, who in time turns into one of my favorite characters on the show. There's this general perception that's very true, that Spike is just cool. He's a little more human than most of the show's villains, even in this first appearance. He's got this girlfriend who he loves, feels less monstrous and more understandable, more relatable as a character, which is probably why they didn't kill him off and they kept bringing him back. What do you think of Oz?
I like Oz.
Oz is great. He becomes Willow's boyfriend, and he's played by Seth Green, who I guess is best known today as the creator of Robot Chicken. But he was an actor once.
Seriously, guys.
And what's great about Oz is he's extremely deadpan. Very quiet, sardonic. He doesn't say a lot, but when he does, there's sort of a weird wisdom to what he says. He's in a band. Do you remember the name of his band?
No.
Dingoes Ate My Baby.
Oh, yeah.
What is Oz's gimmick as a character?
He's a werewolf.
He's a motherfucking werewolf. We always talk about how when a TV show has vampires on it, it's going to have werewolves on it soon. But the show handles the werewolf thing really well, because Oz isn't a monster. When he turns into a werewolf, he has no control over himself. 3 nights out of the month, he just locks himself up. How about Kendra, the second Slayer we meet?
Really awesome looking steak that she carries.
And what's the name of the steak?
Is it Mr. Stick?
Mr. Pointy. The idea is when Buffy died at the end of season 1, another Slayer was summoned. That's who Kendra is. She shows up for a 2-parter called What's My Line? She has this really terrible Jamaican accent. That character doesn't really get a lot of growth, but it makes for a contrast. Kendra's a very traditional Slayer. Xander gets a love interest in the season 2. Who does he get paired up with?
Cordelia.
Which is a weird pairing, and the show recognizes that it's a weird pairing. A part of me feels like Xander and Cordelia happened because they just had these 2 characters who weren't dating anybody, so the writers said, let's pair the pairs. It is a weird relationship, and I don't know if it entirely works.
I don't know either. I don't care about that relationship, I'll be honest.
Giles gets a love interest too, doesn't he? Miss Calendar, Ginny.
Oh, yeah.
Who is
a techno-pagan.
Which just means she does shit with computers. I like that character, but unfortunately she's not on the show very long. When Angel turns evil, one of the first things he does is murder Ginny Calendar. Now, what are some notable episodes from season 2 that you can...
My favorite episode in this season. The episode after Giles finds Miss Calendar dead and he goes after Angel.
Yeah, he goes commando on Angel.
Lights the pool table on fire. Damn, Giles!
In the first season, Giles cuts this very stuffy British figure, but we find out in this season that when he was a teenager, he was into devil worship, and he was a badass once upon a time, and he's still a badass. Some notable episodes for me, we get our Frankenstein episode, we get the Mummy episode, Sea Monster episode, Go Fish it's called, where the swim team are turning into Gillmen. Reptile Boy's a good one. Buffy and Cordelia go to a college party, and the frat boys worship a giant snake monster in the basement that gives them power. In other words, they worship a giant dick that gives them power.
The Halloween episode in this is really good.
Halloween episode is great. The people...
Ethan
Rain, who is one of Giles' old companions, turns everybody into their Halloween costumes. In the Buffyverse, Halloween is not a night for evil people. All the monsters and vampires take Halloween off because they think it's ghost.
I like that. That's a nice little touch.
Ted is a great episode. John Ritter appears as a love interest for Buffy's mom, but he's not human. He is a homicidal robot.
Oh, yeah.
Season 2 does have the Judge. This evil demon who was indestructible, so they cut him into little pieces and separated the boxes. Indestructible with weaponry that existed in the 1600s. How do they destroy the Judge?
With a fucking rocket launcher.
With a bazooka. The Judge is supposed to be this indestructible demon who can't be destroyed by any known means. Buffy picks up a bazooka, and the Judge looks at it and says, "What's that?" Gets blown up. Good moment. Another great episode is Killed by Death, where Buffy comes down with the flu, winds up in the hospital, where she fights this demon called Der Kinderstad, who is basically Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
He attacks kids, he's got a fedora and long claws. It's basically Freddy. It's Buffy versus Freddy.
Which is a good episode.
That is a good one. Season 2 is a stronger season than 1 as far as overall writing goes, and it still has a lot of the fun Monster of the Week episodes that I like. How does Season 2 end?
With Buffy killing Angel.
Buffy is forced to murder her boyfriend, but just as she stabs him, Willow, who has gotten into witchcraft over the course of the season, restores Angel's soul. And that's something I've never understood. Angel doesn't need to be dead to close the portal to hell. He just needs to bleed. So why did Buffy have to kill him? Why did Buffy have to shove him into the hell dimension? Well, the real reason is Buffy needs to angst out and be sad so that it ends the show on this really dramatic moment. As the series goes on, it gets more melodramatic. And there's more moments like this where the characters are forced to do really drastic things that are dumb. The season ends with Buffy leaving town. She runs away.
Yeah.
It sets up Season 3.
To be fair.
Okay.
There is a scene in the last episode of Season 2.
Right.
And then Joyce says, "If you leave this house, don't you dare come back."
Yeah, exactly.
No matter how far she runs, no matter where she hides, she'll never escape her destiny.
Welcome home, Buffy.
A perfect time for welcoming a new friend.
You and I are gonna have fun, you know?
Angel returns from the other side. Buffy's hidden love finally revealed.
We know Angel is alive.
I wish Buffy Summers had never come to Sunnydale.
Every rule will be broken. Even the one no Slayer should ever break.
Came out of nowhere. Get ready to meet the new boss.
Obviously, Buffy comes back. You know, there wouldn't be a show if she didn't. What's the main antagonist of Season 3?
She comes back to Sunnydale, and she's broken the hearts of a lot of people. She has to work on regaining their trust. They really do revisit that throughout the course of the whole season.
It does take a couple episodes for everybody to trust Buffy again. The main point of Season 2 is it brings in this new character called Faith.
Another Slayer.
Because we didn't mention this, Kendra gets killed in Season 2.
By Drusilla.
And when Kendra dies, another Slayer is called, and that's Faith. And Faith and Buffy are very different.
Well, Faith is 5x5.
Buffy has a support net. She has friends, she has family, she has some stability in her life. Faith, meanwhile,
is on the run from Kissing Toast.
Kistos, I think is his name. This Greek vampire who's so old that he actually has started to deform. He doesn't look human anymore. Eventually, throughout the course of the season, Faith becomes evil? Is it fair to call Faith evil?
Well, I don't know, because she does have a redemption arc later on in the series.
She's definitely unhinged. Has no qualms about murdering people. Faith accidentally murders a human, and Buffy freaks out about it and says, "Oh my god, what have you done? We kill monsters, we don't kill people." Faith isn't the big bad of Season 3. Who's the big bad?
The mayor.
The mayor of Sunnydale, who is actually this ancient demon, trapped in human form, and his goal is to...
Mayor Wilcox?
Mayor Wilkins.
Wilkins.
His goal is to reveal his true demonic self. The mayor has a funny gimmick that I really like.
He has the daddy tone.
He's like a sitcom dad from the 50s. He
doesn't like cussing.
Doesn't like swearing. He uses corny catchphrases. Probably my favorite big bad. Funny, avuncular person, even though he's actually this great demon who's going to bring about the apocalypse. Inevitably, the apocalypse is always on the verge of happening on the show. Him and Faith have a special relationship. He adopts Faith. When Faith is with the other character, she's this badass biker babe. When she first meets Xander, she talks about how she had to wrestle alligators naked once or something. Elijah Dushku is an attractive young woman. But when she's with the mayor, she's cute. He brings out this softer side to her. And even though he has her murdering people, she acts sweet. When Buffy, she attacks Faith and puts her in a coma. When that happens, the mayor becomes very angry.
An angered father.
Yeah, and it's this weirdly touching relationship with the villains. One of the things that makes Season 3 really strong for me, this is, in my opinion, one of the best seasons of the series.
It's probably my favorite season. Season 4 is probably, as far as technicality goes, the best season.
Season 4 has some of the best standalone episodes, but Season 4 also has a weak overall arc.
Yeah.
And Season 2 has maybe a stronger overall arc, but I think Season 3 is the one that works the best for me. Buffy is the only person the mayor is mean to.
Yeah.
Everybody else he treats very nicely. He definitely dislikes Buffy. We talked about Faith, but we didn't talk about Elijah Dushku.
Oh, I like her.
First off, terrible last name. She's one of these actresses who hit an occasional false note, and when it happens, you really notice. Gives a good performance. She could be giving a bad performance very easily. It would be very easy for her to lose her focus as a performer.
That's fair.
A character who would become major, who seems trivial in this season, is Anya, the vengeance demon, who appears to scorned women. They make a wish. She can perform usually some sort of horrendous act upon the man who has scorned them. I mentioned Xander and Willow. Willow is dating Oz. They're very close. They're an adorable couple. Willow and Oz is the best couple on the series. Xander has this weird thing with Cordelia. They make it a real relationship in season 3. Willow and Xander start to develop feelings for each other. You know it's wrong because Willow and Oz are so good together, and this is going to ruin it, but they'll make out, and they'll admit to each other, we shouldn't be doing this is wrong, this is a betrayal of the trust of the people we care about, but they can't stop.
You can't look down on the puppy dog love between Willow and Oz.
Because he's a werewolf. Before we move on, what do you think of the makeup design for Oz's werewolf form?
I'm torn on it.
Oh, it's bad. It doesn't look like a werewolf at all. He looks like a gorilla.
In some episodes, it looks pretty good. It's inconsistent. And I hate the floppy tail.
Clearly, they did not always have enough money to realize the things they wanted to do. Anya eventually becomes a love interest for Xander, but in this first season, she's only in 2 episodes.
That's one of my favorite episodes, though.
The Wish. What Sunnydale would be like if Buffy had never showed up.
The first time that you ever really look at Willow, you're like, damn.
If Buffy had never come to town, the vampires would rule it, and Xander and Willow would all be vampires. Under my list of new characters here, I have Vampire Willow listed.
She is a very different character than Willow.
Foreshadows a lot of things about Willow's personality. Vampire Willow, she's in the tight leather. Wow. There's a later episode after The Wish called Doppelgangland, where Vampire Willow is brought into the main reality.
Yes.
Regular Willow's pretending to be Vampire Willow.
But it's somehow hotter.
Yeah, she's being cute normal Willow, but she's wearing the sexy vampire outfit.
No.
What are some notable episodes in season 3? How about Dead Man's Party? Obligatory zombie episode.
With the voodoo mask, or the tiki mask, or whatever.
The tiki mask. Great episode called Beauty and the Beast, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde episode. One of the supporting characters, a boyfriend who's abusive to his girlfriend.
Right.
Which is another example of the show digesting real-life issues through a horror metaphor. And also, we didn't mention, Angel comes back from hell.
Yeah.
His love for Buffy is so strong that it brings him back from hell. And initially, he is very inhuman. He's been in the hell dimension for a while, being tortured every day. That's going to mess anybody up.
Don't they mention, too, that the hell dimension's time goes by?
Yeah, time is slower, so it's only been a few weeks here on Earth, but in the hell dimension, it's been hundreds of years.
Band Candy's a really good episode.
Yeah, Ethan Rain comes back, and he starts selling this candy that it turns the adults into teenagers. Both Giles and Joyce eat some.
Oh, yes.
They're acting like these rambunctious teenagers. And what happens between Buffy's mom and Giles?
Don't they have sex?
Yeah, they have sex on the hood of a police car. And a new character we didn't mention is the new principal. Principal Flutie, the original principal of Sunnydale High, got eaten by the hyena kids in season 1. And they introduced this new character, Principal Snyder. A lot of TV shows have the evil principal. The evil teacher who does not care about the students, who's antagonistic towards the students.
Yeah.
Principal Snyder is my favorite version of that troop.
Problem that I have with these first 3 seasons.
The high school years.
Principal Snyder seems to be hip to what's going on.
Well,
but they never explore how or why he knows this.
Initially, it seems like nobody in Sunnydale knows that there are vampires and monsters. But throughout the course of the show, it becomes clear that everybody has a vague idea that Sunnydale is not like other towns.
Yes, because you're completely wrong. He's very secretive about it. Whisper to cops, and did anyone see anything?
There's an episode called School Hard where Spike and his gang invade the school. And at the end of the episode, Snyder says to the police, he says, so what's the cover story we're going with here? Teens on PCP?
Yeah, definitely some cover-up issues here, and they never go into why he does these things.
I agree with you that it seems like they're hinting towards an ongoing plot that's never explored. Another good episode is Homecoming. Basically the most dangerous game with Buffy and Cordelia. Demons come from all over the world to hunt Buffy. Spike comes back. You know, they didn't kill Spike off at the end of season 2. He ended the series by grabbing Drusilla and leaving town.
Yeah.
And he comes back, and this is the beginning of what I like to call Pathetic Spike, who is my favorite character on the show. Spike was initially this badass. Every time he leaves town and comes back, he's more pathetic than he was before.
That, too, is James Marsden.
The more pathetic Spike becomes, the more I like him. One of my all-time favorite episodes of the entire series is in season 3. It's called The Zeppo. The premise is Xander's feeling a little underappreciated. Willow's becoming a witch. Buffy's got superpowers. Angel's got his superpowers, and he doesn't contribute anything to this team. At least that's what he feels. He goes out and buys a car. I'm going to be the guy with the cool car. Meanwhile, Buffy, the main Scoobies, they're trying to prevent some apocalypse. And meanwhile, Xander goes out and has this crazy night. He meets these zombie frat boys who are going to try and blow up the school, and he ends up losing his virginity to Faith. One of the funniest episodes of the series. I love the Zeppo. Oh, another great episode, Earshot, where Buffy gets telepathy for a day.
Oh, yeah.
She hears somebody say that they're going to kill everybody in the school.
Isn't this the introduction of Jonathan?
Jonathan has actually been around since the very first season. He's been showing up occasionally from the beginning. Jonathan is the bottom of the social ladder in the high school. The reveal of the the episode at the end is it looks like Jonathan, he's up in the clock tower, he's going to pull a Charles Whitman, he's going to start shooting people, but no, he's not up there to shoot other people.
He's up there to shoot himself?
Yeah, he's going to kill himself. And that episode was actually controversial. Initially did not air. This was right after Columbine. Kids in school with guns, that was a no-no. But it's a good episode. How does season 3 end? Very powerful, cathartic image.
Graduation day.
Yeah, but what do they do to the school?
They blow it up.
They blow it the fuck up.
Rightly so.
The mayor, he ascends. He turns into a giant snake monster, and the CGI for that is not good.
To be fair, it looks about as good now as it did then.
Buffy and friends have packed the high school full of explosives, and they blow the school up along with the mayor. Faith ends the season in a coma. Buffy stabs her, she falls into a coma, and Faith is taken out of the picture. The series is not done with her at all. Probably my favorite season overall. There's a lot of really strong standalone episodes. In a way, Buffy could have ended at the end of season 3, and we would have been alright. We would have had 3 pretty great seasons of television. The series starts to slip in quality a little bit afterwards.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Not that I dislike season 4. I actually think season 4 is a really strong season in a lot of ways. The show peaks in season 3, and after that, it's never quite as good.
College, where anything can happen and everything can change.
You are gonna have to take care of yourself now.
Something very real has been awakened. 2 sworn enemies.
Doesn't Spike get that this is my town?
But this time, someone innocent will get in the way. Their darkest fears have come true.
The end of the world.
Again?
She's always fought alone. Now, through passion, she may have found a new ally. But this alliance will expose them to a threat they could never imagine.
This party's starting to liven up after all.
Buffy's past and present will finally meet. He was designed to embody the forces of an entire species. Now, Buffy must face the ultimate evil.
You have a plan?
I am the plan.
High school's over. What do the characters do now?
They go to college.
Except for Xander. Which is another thing I love about his character. The main arc of season 4 is Buffy, Willow, and Xander's hanging around. They go to Sunnydale U. Buffy meets a new boyfriend, but they discover there is a secret government operation called the Initiative that's capturing demons and vampires and performing experiments on them. It's operating underneath of the college.
What?
What's some pivotal new characters introduced in season 4?
The roommate. I realize that she's only in it for 3 episodes.
2, actually. Buffy has to share a dorm room with this incredibly irritating girl named Kathy, who listens to the Cher song Believe on a loop. The words roommate. The joke is that Buffy's friends are worried she's just overstressed, but Kathy really is a demon.
I kind of wish that was one of One-Shot Monsters that they would have brought back, like as a Scooby.
I don't know as a Scooby. They could have done more with that, but it's probably for the best that Willow and Buffy end up being roommates. What do you think of Riley? At the end of season 3, Angel leaves Buffy. They realize that even though they love each other, they can never be together. He leaves and goes off and gets his own spinoff, and so Buffy gets a new love interest named Riley. At first appears to be a normal guy, but is actually one of the commandos trained to hunt down monsters by the government.
People like him, and he lasted for 2 seasons.
People don't like Riley. Riley is the least liked of Buffy's love interest. People say he's boring.
Yeah, I agree. He's boring. I think that he was the love interest that we needed, or that Buffy needed.
After Angel, she wanted somebody who was quote-unquote normal.
Yeah.
Riley first shows up, I don't dislike him, but eventually he becomes a yoke.
A whiny bitch.
Yeah, that comes a little later.
He's a boring, whiny bitch, and I don't like it.
But at first, he's fine. Another notable thing is Spike becomes a series regular. He gets this ring that allows vampires to go around in the daytime, and he tries to kill Buffy, but it doesn't work out for him. He's captured by the government initiative.
They put a chip in his head so he can't hurt people.
Goes to attack people. It causes this searing, incredible burst of pain. And this really bums him out. He tries to attack Willow. They're sitting on the bed together, and Willow's like, I'm sure it happens to a lot of guys. It's okay if you can't perform. And he's like, well, maybe we should just try it again. You know, Willow goes through some serious changes in season 4.
Damn right.
She starts wearing tight jeans and tight shirts, so that's a big change.
Yeah.
Willow is really into witchcraft now. That's sort of her function on the team now. She's the witch. What helps necessitate this change?
Tara.
Midway through the season, Oz and Willow split up. I sort of hate the way they break up Willow and Oz.
A female werewolf that's in another band and comes to town.
Yeah, Veruca. It's this unspoken attraction. They both wolf out on the same night and they meet up in the woods, and Willow walks in on them together. It's not dumb. It's not handled poorly, but I hate that it had to happen.
They probably couldn't afford sex scenes anymore.
And I don't know if it was a mutual decision or what. Willow is really bummed out about it for a couple episodes. Great episode called Something Blue. Willow is so grieved by her boyfriend dumping her that she inadvertently performing magical spells on her friends.
Yeah.
If Buffy's worried so much about Spike, why doesn't she just marry him? Cut to Buffy and Spike are suddenly in love and planning their wedding. So Willow meets this girl in her Wicca circle called Tara.
they form a connection.
Willow develops a romantic relationship with another woman. Do you feel like that change is earned?
With the circumstances, yes.
I feel like they rushed the relationship between Tara and Willow. Willow is so heartbroken by Oz, and they were together for so long. So soon after that, her meeting Tara and developing a relationship with her doesn't feel too earned.
You know what I don't like about it? She getting into Wicca, she's a witch, and that's female empowerment, so let's make her a lesbian.
Which is a metaphor for lesbians in the show. That's a little heavy-handed. And I don't hate Tara. I feel like Tara is not an especially compelling character. She's super nice. She's nice to everybody. And that's it. She doesn't really motivate the plot in any way on her own. This government operation is the real villain of the season. An individual emerges as the main bad guy for season 4.
Adam.
This Frankenstein monster made up of other demon parts.
Yeah.
Fixates on Buffy. He has to destroy Buffy.
Well, he gets like the Ultron complex.
Adam does not rank high on my list of favorite big bads.
I don't really like Adam as a big bad, but I like the way that they disperse him.
There's not really anything super interesting about him. He's not funny like the previous villains. He doesn't directly interact with the heroes the way the previous villains did.
Yeah, my least favorite.
And as I said, that's kind of the problem with season 4. The overall arc is a bummer, but there are individual episodes that are really great. And before we talk about that, though, let's talk about some of the changes Giles goes through in season 4.
For starters, we find out he has a lady friend.
He has this female friend who comes by occasionally, and they hook up, and then she has to leave again. He's unemployed. The school got blown up, so he's not a librarian
And he's
anymore.
not on the Watchers Council anymore.
Yeah, and Giles is just hanging around his house a lot, and he doesn't really have a lot to do. To see this character that's very respectable throughout the first 3 seasons hang out a little, kick his shoes off and
but
relax.
I like that character
I
development.
love that character development.
Oh my god, Giles is a person.
Especially the Halloween episode where
where he's wearing the sombrero.
Yes! He's really excited about Halloween. And what about Xander and Anya?
Anya in season 4, I really don't care for. I feel like she becomes a much more likable character in later seasons.
She doesn't have a lot of purpose at first other than to be Xander's girlfriend. And how they end up getting together is random a little bit. She's just attracted to him for no reason, and they start having sex on a regular basis, and serious feelings arise. Eventually, it develops into a really good relationship, but I kind of agree with you at first, it's a little awkward, especially since Xander is living in his parents' basement at this point. This season has some really notable episodes. The most critically acclaimed, beloved episode of the entire series. Hush. Occasionally, Whedon does this. I've got a crazy idea. Let's do something really major for an episode. What's the gimmick with Hush?
All the characters lose their voice.
Yeah, 15 minutes into the episode, these demons entered town called the Gentlemen. If the Gentlemen hear a voice, their heads explode. So in order to fight against that, they steal everybody's voice. A silent movie episode. It's a really good episode.
You know my favorite scene in that episode?
What's your favorite scene?
When Buffy's trying to ask, how do we kill him? And she's going like this.
Yeah, she picks up a stake and moves it towards her pelvic region. Everybody looks at her. It looks suggestive.
And then she gets like this, oh god, look on her face.
What do the Gentlemen do? What is their goal?
To steal the hearts.
And there's a scene where a guy is in a dorm room, and the Gentlemen have these weird little slaves that show up. They're in straitjackets. Yeah, and they hold the guy down. The Gentlemen, they float. They don't walk. They float like 10 inches above the ground. And they float in with the scalpel in hand. Maybe the scariest moment of the entire series.
Oh, I know. It's so terrifying.
They have a defining facial feature. They're always grinning. They're very cordial in a weird way.
Damn that Whedon. He can be creepy sometimes. This is one of the episodes that he both wrote and directed.
Yes, he did direct this one. Buffy was not super scary all the time, but every once in a while they got an episode that was really creepy. And Hutch is definitely a highlight for that reason.
It's probably the creepiest Buffy episode I've seen.
Buffy usually has great Halloween episodes. Season 4's Halloween episode is awesome. Fear itself.
Oh,
the haunted
this
house
is also
becomes
one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, they put on this haunted house on the campus.
Yeah.
And they draw this badass pentagram on the floor. They get it out of a book, not realizing it's an actual symbol to summon a demon. And the demon makes all the attractions in the haunted house real. It's about the characters dealing with their fears. Willow is afraid that she's going to lose control of her witch powers. Oz is afraid
he's going to lose control as a werewolf.
Xander feels like nobody can see him, so he becomes invisible.
Well, he feels left out.
Yeah, and Buffy is afraid that she's going to die alone. My favorite moment, maybe of the entire series, occurs at the end of Fear itself. They fight their way through the haunted house to the attic where the master demon is. Close up, the floorboards open, and this very Cenobite-looking monster comes out. He's growling, and then you do a wide shot, and he's 7 inches tall.
Yep.
And Buffy just steps on him.
Yep.
And later, Giles is reading from the book where the demon is mentioned, and he says, oh, there's this text underneath the demon I should have read. And they go, what does it say? And he whispers, actual size. The metaphor there is, oh, your fears seem very big, but when you're up close to them, they're very small. But it's a great gag.
Yeah.
What do you think of Beer Bad? Something I love about Buffy is how it incorporates these classic horror concepts. And the caveman is kind of a classic horror concept.
Yeah.
Buffy and friends drink some beer and turns him into cavemen. This is frequently cited as the worst episode of the entire series. I kind of like it.
You would, because you like all things people hate.
This season also has a Thanksgiving episode.
Oh, yeah?
Pangs. Have I talked before about how much I despise Thanksgiving as a holiday?
I think it's come up.
You sit around a table with people you do not like, eating food you do not enjoy. Pangs is a great episode because Buffy really wants a traditional Thanksgiving. She's not at home anymore. Willow and Giles end up arguing because Willow is in her college empowerment period. Thanksgiving is all about the oppression of Native Americans. And meanwhile, Spike is there. Nobody wants him there, but he's there. And these Indian spirits attack. There's a moment where Spike is tied to a chair in the living room while these Indian spirits are shooting arrows into the house. And he's like a pincushion. When Buffy is fighting the lead of the Chumash spirits, he turns into a bear. And Spike's response to this is, "Bear! You made a bear!" Oh, A New Man is fun, where Ethan Rain turns Giles into a demon.
Oh, yeah, I like that one.
And nobody can understand him except for Spike. Spike can't kill people, but he can hurt demons. So he reluctantly becomes an ally of Buffy and friends, not because he wants to fight evil, but because he wants to get out his violent, sadistic tendencies. Nobody wants him there, but he's hanging around anyway.
I think my favorite version of Spike is the one that's tied to the chair.
Catty asshole.
Yeah.
He unexpectedly becomes a great comic relief. Faith comes back for a two-parter. Faith gets out of her coma, she finds Buffy, she gets this magical device that lets her switch bodies with Buffy.
Yeah, I don't like this story arc.
Because it ends with Faith realizing that she is a good person. She's not evil. Jonathan comes back, superstar. He casts a spell that makes him
like this episode.
Makes him the center of the universe. They actually changed the credits. Jonathan's in the credits, firing crossbows and jumping through windows, doing cool shit. You mentioned the season finale. The group realizes Buffy cannot defeat Adam alone, so what do?
They infuse Buffy with the powers of the group.
Yeah, they do a magic ritual that puts all their spirits into one body and it makes a super Buffy.
But I like Super Saiyan Buffy. I mean, I know that there's people out there that hate it. That's the moment where the Scooby Gang gets to be the closest that they'll be for the rest of the series. They've been in each other's shoes.
Throughout the show, they make the point that Buffy has her friends. She has people who care about her and hold her together. And that's the most literal version of that, where they literally come together to make a Voltron that can defeat the big bad. Something really cool about season 4. The episode where they kill the big bad and they save the day, but that's not the end of the season. There's one more episode called Restless, and this is my all-time favorite episode of the entire series. Hush is, oh, what if we did a silent movie? Once More Feeling, what if we did a musical? Restless is what if we did an art film. It's all about dreams. The characters all fall asleep and have these very symbolic dreams. Whedon was really, really good at capturing the feel of a dream. Like, usually you watch a TV show or a movie and there's a dream sequence and it doesn't feel like a dream at all. And Restless, they feel like dreams. There are things in the dreams that are weird, that are funny, that are creepy, that don't make sense, like the Cheese Man. And in each of their dreams, there's this weird guy with cheese who says things like, I wear the cheese does not wear me. Whedon has said that is the only thing in the entire episode that does not have a deeper meaning. Because sometimes shit happens in dreams for no reason. Willow's dream is very Freudian. It's all about her developing relationship with Tara. There's a moment where she's walking through red curtains, which is very symbolic. Or Xander's dream has some hilarious moments. He has a bunch of odd jobs. At this point, he's driving an ice cream truck. And he looks in the back of the ice cream truck, and there's Tara and Willow dressed like porn stars. They're gonna make out, but we don't see him make out. We just see Xander's reaction. Wandering through the house, and there's Joyce. There's Buffy's mom, and she's dressed in a nightgown and motioning to her bedroom. And Xander is...
I don't like this episode.
Line later in Xander's dream where he says, I have to meet Willow and Tara, and possibly Buffy's mom. Is it too weird for you?
No.
But there's some hilarious moments. In Giles' dream, he dreams that he's at an amusement park, and Buffy's acting like a little girl, and clearly this is about his surrogate father relationship with Buffy. In the carnival, there's Spike. I've rented myself out as an attraction. He just poses in front of a group of people who then ooh and snap pictures. How can you not love that?
I just didn't feel it, man.
It's just not for you?
It's just not for me.
Well, whatever.
Can't even shout, can't even cry. The gentlemen are coming by, looking in windows, knocking on doors. They need to take 7 and they might take yours. Can't call to mom, can't say a word. You're gonna die screaming, but you won't be hurt.
This is a two-parter, obviously. We can't cover all 7 seasons of Buffy in one episode, so we're splitting this one in 2. More Buffy next time. We're not done with this topic.
Yeah, come back next week for the epic conclusion of...
Yeah, but until then, you can email us at bangersinmash88@yahoo.com. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for the nice comment on the YouTube feed. We're doing this episode because Lee requested it, and we actually haven't heard from you in a while, Lee, so if you're listening, drop us a line. Guess we're just going to hang out awkwardly until conclude this topic.
Yes.
Yep.
Tired of being everyone's butt monkey. So, what are we going to do next week?
It's strange, it's not like anything we've faced before, but it seems familiar somehow. Of course, the spell we cast with Buffy must have released some primal evil that's come back seeking. I'm not sure what. Willow looked through the chronicles for some reference to a warrior beast. I've got to warn Buffy, there's every chance she might be next. And Xander, help Willow, and try not to bleed on my couch. I've just had it steam cleaned. No, wait.
Grr, arg.